Welcome to my review of the Nothing Ear 1, of which I don't have a review piece because, like most YouTubers, I didn't get one. In fact, it's beginning to look like Mr. Kalpe would rather have you want the device so badly, what with that artificial supply-demand gap that he's created, that you would just spend your money on it without actually asking the right questions why, without knowing enough about the device. And to that I say, two can play at that game. This then is a hands-off review and analysis not just of the Nothing Ear 1 but of the brand Nothing itself and its founder Mr. Kalpe, so that you and I can, going forward, know how to get the information we need to make informed buying decisions based partly on the information they give us but also on the information that they don't give us, so that we don't just follow the marketing hype like the sheep some people would like us to be. Basically what I'm saying is, challenge accepted. Okay, so where do we begin? Well, we'll start at the beginning with the marketing and the social media hype. There's not much we can learn from it, but I will bring to your attention the concept image that was shared to us on social media. This looked nothing like the final image, and if we looked at the launch event, it actually bears more resemblance to one of the initial concept sketches of the device. But by the time the social media post was actually presented to the world, they had a very good idea of what the final device should look like. So we learned two things from this. Number one, they chose an older render probably because it looked good on social media, and two, they completely did not show the earbud part of it, because if they did, it would look more like a normal wireless earbud and not as game-changing as they would have us believe. The point is, a teaser image is not meant to add any value to you as an informed buyer. It is purely there to hook your attention so that when launch day comes, out of all the things that are happening on the internet, this is the event that you tune into. That's it. So the next time this happens, and it will happen again, maybe you and I can just ease off a little, take a deep breath, don't take the image for anything more than media hype, and stay away from the comment section and just wait for the actual device to be released, because what are they going to do, not release the device? What about launch day? Well, the launch event is actually a great place to learn about the device because it is worthwhile paying attention to what they'd like to talk about and what they'd like not to talk about. In this particular launch event, they spent an inordinate amount of time on the design of the product because they have spent a lot of time on the design of the product. That's fair. They also spent some time talking about the features and usability, but what they didn't spend much time on, not really, is the sound quality of the device. That should tell you a little something, because if they had great sound quality, I bet you they would spend more time on that. But what about other YouTubers and the reviews that came out after? Well, one of the things you'll notice is that a handful of tech YouTubers did get their hands on the device, but I have yet to find any serious audiophile reviews. There are no actual sound critics that have had their hands on this device. That is really telling. For a device that is meant to give you audio, there's no audio review. So where can we learn more? Well, the tech spec sheet is a pretty good place to start. And before we start, I would like to bring to your attention the tech spec sheet itself. It is a beautiful work of design. If you haven't checked it out, go check out their webpage. They've made the entire thing look like an old engineering tech spec sheet. It's beautiful. It's got these thin black and white design drawings of the actual earbuds and the case, and the only splash of color on that whole page is just that red and white dot that comes on the device itself. It's really, really nicely done, right down to the font, which makes it look like an old engineering tech spec sheet. But as we run through the tech spec sheet, we see that there are actually some nice specifications on there, but it definitely looks like they might have padded the resume a little bit. Okay, so starting from the bottom of the page, you see contents and you see connectivity. It's got Bluetooth 5.2. It also has 3 different Bluetooth profiles. This is one of those examples of padding the resume, because these Bluetooth profiles have existed for a long time and do exist on a lot of Bluetooth devices, so that's not really a feature. We also see that under features, they list in-ear detection, nice to have, an app for both Android and iOS. This should be kind of basic at this point. Fast pairing, again, a nice feature to have, but if you support Bluetooth 5.2, you have this anyway. So a lot of devices actually do have this. It's also IPX4 splash proof, so you can use it at the gym and look good while you're at it. Now, when it comes to battery life, they mentioned 24 hours with ANC on and 34 hours with ANC off, and this is a little bit of an issue because notice how they don't tell you how long the earbuds take by themselves without the case. I'm going to give them a pass on this one because actually on the main page of the website, they do say it lasts for 5 hours, and in the launch event also they were very transparent about it, so that's fine. It's just that I think they left it out on the spec sheet because it doesn't look as good as its competition. So what about the sound quality, which is why we came here in the first place? Well, they've given us some meaningless things like 11.6 mm dynamic driver made of graphene. This doesn't really tell us across anything. But if you look at the bottom there, it says it supports SBC and AAC. These are the two lowest bitrate audio codecs that you could have over Bluetooth. There's no aptX, let alone aptX HD, aptX Adaptive, LHDC, LDAC. None of those Bluetooth codecs are even supported. So clearly they're not even going for high resolution audio here. And when it comes to sound tuning, it just says Teenage Engineering. Okay, this is an interesting bit over here because on the one hand, sound tuning is supposed to tell you something about how it's supposed to be sounding. It's supposed to tell you what is recessed and what is pushed forward, the bass, the mids, the sparkly highs, whatever. But it doesn't tell you any of that because to the average consumer looking at the spec sheet, this means nothing and it sounds boring. So instead, they put Teenage Engineering there, which sounds much more interesting. Now, when the average person looks at the tech spec sheet, they'll think, oh, it's been tuned by these audiophile people who really know what they're talking about, so it must sound good. Because what are the chances you're actually going to look into Teenage Engineering and see what they're all about? And this is what they're banking on. This is what they know. What they didn't account for was this guy. The reason you clicked on this video, the reason you hit that like and subscribe button, you think I wouldn't notice? I noticed, I appreciate you. But I did some digging and this is what I found out. Teenage Engineering is a UK-based company that was made with the intention of building synthesizers. Not speakers, not earbuds, not headphones, synthesizers. And they did a great job with something called the OP1, which has received wide acclaim in the music industry. If we look through their website, they make a lot of really strange, wonderful things that have a great design emphasis. When it comes to speakers, they have one claim to fame, and that's the OD11. And it's not even their speaker. See, the OD11 is a reproduction of an older speaker design back from 1978, made by a Swedish sound engineer. Now, this sound engineer has long since passed away, but legend has it he is actually still roaming the forests around Sweden looking for just the right type of wood so he can make the perfect speakers for the International Space Station. We'll never know if that's true or not, but what we do know is he's called the Stig Carlson. Stig Carlson, that's actually his name. So Stig Carlson wanted to make speakers that didn't just work in a soundproof lab environment but worked in your living room as well. And he did that. He made a wide range of speakers, but the most basic speaker he ever made was, you guessed it, the OD11. Teenage Engineering, with permission, reproduced the OD11 faithfully, added a little more bass response, and added a wireless unit so it worked over AirPlay, and then charged $1,000 for it. Not for a pair, for one. But okay, what do they really sound like? That's what we want to know. I looked it up, and here is where it gets interesting. Just like the Nothing Ear 1 and some other audio device manufacturers out there, the OD11 has no audiophile reviews whatsoever. The only reviews I was able to find was by a handful of tech publications such as Engadget and Wired. To Wired magazine's credit, they do talk about sound quality, and they said that while it sounded nice and it did fill the room, it wasn't as good as two proper floor standing speakers sitting in your living room. And I can guarantee you, for the price of $2,000, you can get some damn good floor standing speakers. So given that they don't really have a track record, given what little we know about what Teenage Engineering has done in terms of tuning speakers so far, an educated guess would be to say that the Nothing Ear 1, it's probably going to have a relatively flat frequency response curve. It's not going to be too bass forward or mid forward. Nothing's going to be too regressed. It's going to be middle of the road and inoffensive, and that is not a bad thing per se. So now that we have a educated guess as to what might be, what do the tech reviewers have to say? Well, MKBHD skipped over the sound quality completely, and I feel like if it had a remarkable sound quality, either good or bad, he would have mentioned it. Mr. Who's the Boss also talked about sound quality, and he said it was better than the AirPods Pro, which is a very low bar to pass in the first place. But also, to qualify that, he started talking about something that sounded more like sound stage. This is more a sound presentation thing rather than a sound quality thing, so I'm not going to judge them based on that. But looking at all the tech reviews, some people have said it sounds pretty nice, some people have said it doesn't sound so nice. Overall, nobody has said that it sounds amazing or really bad, which means that despite not having the device, our educated guess was not far off the mark. Now, so far, it sounds like I've been slagging off Nothing and the Nothing Ear 1, but this is not true. I have a great respect for this company and Mr. Kalpe and what they know to do, because they know what they're doing and they do it very well. But let's take a look at the device itself and see if it's of any real value to you and me. There are two things that set expectations of a device. One is the hype, of which there is a lot, and two, the pricing. $99. This is a key part of this device because now for $99 you get a package that at the base of it has Bluetooth 5.2, has that IPX4 rating, has some noise cancelling, is ported to equalize pressure on both sides of the earbud so you don't have that occlusion effect in your head, has probably middle of the road sound quality and reasonably decent battery life but nothing to write home about. So far it looks like a not terrible device, which is not really good enough because there is competition even in this price range. The Soundpeats H1 for example, the Edifier NeoBuds Pro also come to mind, which by the way I have on order and I will be reviewing later on this channel, so you might want to subscribe for that one. But none of them look quite like this device does, and this is key because most people like to have devices that make them look good when they're wearing them. This is something Carl Pei knows to do very well. This is what he did with the OnePlus as well. The OnePlus was one of the few cell phones that you could buy for a few $100s that did not make you feel like you wish you had a few $100 more to buy a nicer phone. You got something that felt good even at a low price point. And I think that the Nothing Ear 1 attempts to be to the wireless earbud space what OnePlus was to the smartphone space. And I think to some extent they are probably going to achieve this because there is nothing else in the market that you can get that looks so striking. Whether you think it's good or bad, you have to admit that is a very striking design, to the point where I think that social media hype and marketing is not only not helping the device quite as much as they think, it's beginning to look like they're employing cheap tricks, and it might even be hurting the brand a little bit because I genuinely believe this thing is so striking that all you have to do to market this device is to hold it up to the camera. That's it. It'll do the rest itself. There's really nothing more to it. Alright, so in summary, don't give in to social media hype. Don't be worried too much about teaser and concept photos because they're probably nothing. When the launch event happens, pay specific attention to what they're emphasizing, but especially to what they're not emphasizing. Look at the tech specs in the same way. Follow multiple YouTube channels and watch multiple reviews so you get a diverse set of opinions, and try and see if there's a pattern there as well. If an audio product does not go immediately out to audio reviewers as well, maybe there's something amiss. Compare the product with its peers, do your own research because, my friend, you are capable of finding out a heck of a lot more than they think you are. And finally, above all else, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Bye.